And Jason, man, I am so thankful that we're getting a chance to sit down and spend a little time together, man.
No, excited. Thanks for having me on. I look forward to the discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, we serve leaders all around the world, a lot of different contexts. Some are leading in churches that may have a few hundred or a few thousand. Some are little house churches with 20 to 30. But we also have marketplace leaders, business leaders. Can you just share a little bit of your experience as a believer, maybe how you came to faith, and then some of the context that God has placed you in leadership?
For sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So haven't been all around the world, right? Totally enjoy watching and living through you guys as you travel and meet
Mm,
these leaders all over the globe. But I'm a Georgia guy here, Georgia in the
okay.
U.S. Born in South Georgia and been here all my life. There's always been a gravitational pull towards leadership. Young age, all of the clubs and things at school,
Sure.
student governance, all that stuff. I always wanted to be in a role to make an impact and
Mm.
influence the direction of the organization or the people around me. Came to faith at a young age. Actually, a Gideon, those guys handing out the
No
Bibles.
kidding.
Yep, he was at a movie. I don't remember what the movie was, but he offered at the end of this movie in a commercial movie theater.
Mhm.
Anyone that wanted to come down front and get a Bible, and my dad walked me down there, and we prayed a prayer of faith, and began at a really young age. Of course, going through adolescence and everything. That journey with Jesus took a lot of different shapes and turns, but went into school, met my lovely wife who's from Carrollton here,
Okay.
and that's how we ended up here ultimately. But we got married and moved off to Florida, had a construction company, and was
Okay.
the managing partner of that. So had employees for the first
Mm.
time and all sorts of responsibilities from a leadership standpoint. We ultimately closed that business and moved to Carrollton here about 13 years ago.
Okay.
Joined a large electrical products manufacturer here in town,
Okay.
and didn't have any leadership per se. Although I know we'll talk about you can lead from anywhere,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But started out kind of in the front lines and carrying a lot of my business ownership um, mindset into that corporate environment. Made a big difference. People would say, "Man, it really sounds like you care."
Mm.
And I said, "Well, coming from a world of business ownership,
Yeah.
every phone call is important. Every engagement is important." In the corporate environment, if you have that sort of mindset, it'll serve you well, and it has. And so that sort of mindset of always being responsive, always serving the customer and your fellow employees has taken me to places inside of this corporate environment where now I've got leadership roles over people,
Mm.
over processes, over efforts and strategies within the company. And so um, as we'll talk about and dive into, the ability to take your faith and your servant minded heart and go into the workplace has really been what I believe has allowed me to continue to grow in a leadership capacity.
Man, I love that. I love to hear your heart of combining those things. I know for so many um, believers, sometimes getting Sunday into Monday can be a hard bridging, right? And I'm a big believer that our followership of Jesus, that our leadership is an extension of our followership of Jesus, right? Like that, there's ultimately a relationship that has to exist there because I'm called to follow Him. And so, as I'm living out my life, if I'm going to be leading in any way effectively, I've got to see that as a followership of Jesus and see how He kind of leads me in that regard. Now, I also know you got a family, you got some kids, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Got four boys, all boys.
Oh
A lot
man,
of fun at our household.
good Lord.
We keep having to patch holes in the
I'm
drywall. I don't
telling
know where
you,
they come from,
brother.
but we just relegate them to the basement, let them go wild.
I love that. And you also lead, if I understand right, you're one of the leaders in your church and that congregation as well. I mean, what does that kind of look like for you
Yeah,
at your church?
absolutely. We attend here in town. We have an elder led church, and
Okay.
so as one of the elders on a five elder team, we sort of have a great staff. We have a few hundred people. It is a non denominational church here, and just growing. It's been really an interesting opportunity, and the leadership tactics, I guess, the
Yeah.
strategies that I learned in the corporate environment. A lot of times you try to bring that over, and some of those land well, and some of those don't land so well,
Yeah.
as we've discussed before. But it is an eldership. It's been now going on 8 years that I've
Wow.
been
Okay.
in that capacity, and just leading and guiding. A lot of opportunities to speak from the pulpit, and
Mm.
our elders do support the communication of the gospel on
Yeah.
Sunday mornings, but then, throughout the week through life groups and things like that.
Man, I love it. And so why I'm asking these questions is because I want the people that, I always picture it as if there was a third chair here with us,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If they were sitting here with us, I'd want the person sitting across the table from us to know, man, you're from all the testimony I've heard, all of the personal interactions I've had, a well-rounded Christ-centered leader that is seeking to emulate Christian leadership with effectiveness across all domains in your life, right? You're seeking to lead well in your home. You're seeking to lead well in the church that He has called you and placed you, and given you, a shepherding responsibility, authority, and privilege. And then, even in that secular context where you're working in a kind of a 9 to 5 day job,
Right.
that doesn't have any less ministry importance or impact. So, what are some of those kind of leadership lessons you've learned as a believer, as a managing partner in a business, and even now as somebody who's kind of growing in leadership and influence in a larger kind of corporate context? What are some of the leadership lessons that you've had to kind of wrestle down, living out your faith in those contexts?
Sure. Yeah. And so many things come to mind. I would say, in the more secular world, as you do live out your faith, it is naturally embedded in all of your character traits, all of your leadership attributes. Sometimes you can't be as forthcoming, with the gospel message in
Mm,
certain corporate environments. But being able to demonstrate that character opens those doors, and a lot of times people will share with you, what
yeah.
they're where they are in a relationship with Jesus, and whether they're really far from Him or whether they're seeking, or maybe they have a great relationship, and then they open up and begin to share with you, and you can really do direct ministry. But a lot of it comes in the form of that just representation of Christ-like character
Yeah.
in the workplace, right? Making sure that people know that your priorities are their priorities, that their future, their momentum. There's so much given to the career planning and career path in the secular world. Everybody
Okay.
wants to see that momentum. And it's very similar to in a church setting where you're encouraging a believer to take that next step of faith,
Mm,
that next right move, whether it be overcoming sin and temptation, or just moving towards Jesus in a more Christian discipline way, the reading of the Word, the prayer life. So encouraging people to keep that momentum going is an overlap in terms
okay.
of the skill set there. And I love it in the work world when it can take on that faith element. That's always such a blessing.
Man, I love hearing that. And I know, there are some corporate groups, and if you're in certainly in the US as a leader, you would want to look into these employee resource groups that exist, because a lot of corporations have those. But finding that kind of sense of local Christian community, even though we may go to a bunch of different churches,
Yeah.
if we're in a larger kind of corporate context, I know I have experienced that in some of my time in marketplace work. Being able to meet a couple of believers, say, hey, over lunch, I'm going to do a Bible study or something like that, getting a chance to fellowship over the word. But then also just in the way that God gives us the chance to minister to people, right?
Mhm.
It really shouldn't surprise us. People are going through all of life all the time. And so in our workplace, the opportunity to come alongside somebody and just speak a word of truth over them, or
Yeah.
pray with them, or say, hey, I know you're really hurting right now. Um, I'm not wanting to sit here and impose, but I am wanting to say I'm here. I'm available. If you want to have some of those harder conversations, those bigger life conversations that normally we wouldn't have at work, because this is, it's a different context. How have you ever had some of those chances? How have you kind of navigated some of those?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you mentioned employee resource groups. We have those, and we've been able to sort of formulate a faith-based group,
Oh, great.
within our corporate environment. So it's a great community. In a corporation with 9,000 employees, we've got a couple of hundred folks that are
Yeah.
actively involved in a faith-forward group, right? And so there's lots of prayer requests and things shared within that community. But then beyond that, our company does a great job of supporting through kind of an emergency fund type program. So you see people that are going through life, like you
Mm,
mentioned, and if you know them and they're a part of the faith community, obviously you can reach out and let them know you're praying for them, things like that. I think most often for me, it's taken the form of someone taking note of just a level of passion that I have for caring for my employees, my team, my
Hmm.
coworkers, and them if they make a comment on that, whether I know them to be a believer or anything about them, to me it opens the door. And I've often thrown out there, hey, I'd love to tell you why I do
Mm.
that. Right? I'd love to give you a little bit of the foundation as to why I'm willing to go above and beyond in these ways that you're noticing.
Yeah.
If you ever wanted to outside of work, and that way it opens the door. And I've had a few people take me up on that, and I got to really expand on the why behind the intensity that I bring to the workplace as it relates to caring for people.
Man, I love that. We obviously at ILI we teach 8 core values, and one of them is passion for the harvest. And I think that's really an extension of this question and this idea of, man, Christ calls us to love our neighbor,
Yeah.
right? And what I'm hearing as you're describing it is that passion for the harvest that says, I love my neighbor, I love my coworker, I love my employee,
Mm.
and not again lip service love, and not love that is limited to their productivity toward your bottom lines every quarter, but rather a love that says, no, again, I recognize you as made in the image of God, loved by our Creator, Sustainer God, so much that He would give His own Son, and that kind of passion leads to those kinds of opportunities. Now, earlier you were talking about uh, uh, how living out Christ-like character in the workplace really becomes an avenue
Mhm.
for some of those kinds of conversations to take place, or just an avenue for you to actively, live out your faith in a public way with the people that you're living and working alongside. I'd be curious, I can think of, maybe integrity or faithful stewardship. What would you describe as some of those Christ-like characteristics that are most maybe countercultural, or stand out the most, right? That cause the most contrast in the kind of typical post-Christian context.
Yeah, that's a great question. Of course, all of the ones you mentioned, and really being people centered. I think there's a genuineness. I mean, there's not a company on earth that would say, "Yeah, we don't care about our people," or
Yeah, yeah, that's
you
true.
know, we have multiple people, P&Ls, right, and people in lives. I mean, and that is stated universally by lots of companies. But I think the genuineness of being people centered, I think people can tell. They
Mhm.
know when you're doing it for soundbite reasons, and when you're doing it because you're everything else about what you have presented at work lines up with that.
Yeah.
So I think just kind of pushing back on you know the the idea that I'm here for a paycheck, you're here for a paycheck. We're both here to just kind of either some generations are of the mindset, how little can I do for the most money,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
this transactional element at work. But if you really get down to the biblical example of work, you've got to, it's your ministry. It is your worship.
Yeah.
You are a living sacrifice,
Amen.
right? You are there to, to serve others, to lead others, to influence others. And when that comes out in the workplace and it's not just a soundbite, people know, and they're drawn to it.
No, man, I couldn't agree more. I think we're living in a day and age, again, just looking at our own context and culture. I think we're living in a day and age where people are yearning for uh they're yearning for that sense of love and care, but they're yearning for it with an authenticity that is only purchased by time and consistency.
Mhm.
Right? Like, because you're right. You know what? Every business in the world now is going to say, man, we care about our employees, right? Our
Yeah.
people are our greatest asset.
Yeah.
And there may be some degrees to which they feel that or see that. And there may be some degrees to which they absolutely believe that. And yet still, for whatever reasons, have to make really hard choices. And I don't want to minimize leaders that are having to make really hard choices that
Yeah.
end up being difficult for some people. And I believe wholeheartedly there are faithful Christian leaders that have to make sacrificial decisions in those cases. But I think for so many, they hear a lot of lip service, but they don't see a lot of consistency in action and attitude and behavior. And so, I loved hearing, you've been where you are now for, I think you said 13 years.
Mhm.
Um, and that kind of longevity allows for a reputation, right? I
Yeah.
mean, how many times does the Proverbs describe the value of a name,
Yeah.
right? And the longevity in that. What are some moments where you've maybe had to live that out a little specifically, right? Where you've had to live out maybe some integrity or some sense of yeah, I'll just kind of stick with the general term integrity. How have you had to live out some integrity in in your leadership, maybe when you were managing partner or even now, that, I mean, it cost you something. It was hard or it was heavy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, back, I guess, to go back to those contracting days when I was a managing partner, and kind of everything depended on me, demonstrating that work ethic, what was possible, being out there the long hours with the guys. But, you know, there were some tough things that happened. There were things that went on with employees and injuries and things like that. So when you say time and consistency, I mean, there was no end to the amount of time you could invest
Mm,
in those people's lives. And I was young, and we didn't have kids at the time, and it was not as much of an impact to really, be there late in the evening, go visit the hospitals, do different things when your
sure.
employees were in a bad state. I don't have as many of those opportunities in my current role. I mean, folks are. I guess we're not on construction sites every day, living a
Sure, sure.
relatively more safe and healthy life, but they still go through stuff. They still have relationships break down. They still have, kids in turmoil and things like that. And so being willing and in the season of life, it's a greater sacrifice with
Mhm.
everything I've got going on at home.
Yeah.
But just letting them know that you've thought about them again, that, if they're open to the idea of prayer as their people manager, you don't want to overstep the corporate need to dance around that. But if they're open to it, knowing that I'm praying for them is always encouraging. And just getting their feedback, right? Getting their feedback on when if my character doesn't stay in line,
Mhm.
in terms of being frustrated or complaining or griping or
Yeah.
grumbling. That's a big one in the corporate environment. You don't want to be the source of all the complaining and
Right.
grumbling. And so not to divert from answering your question on
No.
situations where I did it right, but there's lots where I didn't do it right.
Well, and I think in all of those, we have an opportunity to learn and grow and um, kind of hear those testimonies. And I would say it's often in my my most egregious failures that I learn the greatest lessons
Oh
and then
yeah.
have the opportunity to share with others. But I wanted to be able to talk about some of this with you because I've seen some relatively concerning trends of late. I had the chance to go and visit with a number of churches over in San Antonio. Okay.
Okay.
And so they had some research that showed in their region of Texas, the middle of Texas, there were a little over 14 million unbelievers.
Mm.
Okay. And so we were talking about just the heaviness of that and the reality that if a single church could reach 100 people a day, okay, it would take more than 400 years for them to reach that 14 million.
Wow.
And that's just like, that's too long, man.
Oh yeah.
There are too many people that need the hope and joy that can only be found in Jesus. And I began to hear, and I'm continuing to hear this heart cry of Christian leaders that are saying, "Hey, we have got to help mobilize people to be on mission 365. Like we are called to mobilize the whole body of Christ." And some interesting trends that are showing how increasingly today's Christians in a post Christian context, they are seeing evangelism as a responsibility of the church, not the believers in the church.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, first of all, I'm seeing some of that research. Just anecdotally, you're also a leader in your church. I mean, do you see that kind of being true? How are some of the ways that you have seen people engage in evangelism and some of those elements? Right? How are you seeing people kind of live out?
I think those trends are exactly right. And I do see it on both sides. Our church is focused on equipping our members to be those evangelists.
Yeah.
But about as far as our expectation goes, it seems like is just to get them to invite someone to church,
Yeah.
whereby the staff can then do the evangelizing from there on. And that's a great start. I mean, you should
Sure. I mean,
absolutely invite people to your church. But being equipped to share the full gospel message Monday through Saturday
yeah.
is certainly where we should be.
Yeah.
And in the workplace, I'm challenged. I'm bouncing back and forth. I've struggled with the idea and sort of the misunderstood notion that to truly make an impact, to truly move the kingdom forward, I guess in my little sphere, I need to be in a role or in a job or with a company that is explicitly faith based, right, or is
Okay.
explicitly doing some type of care for widows and orphans, right? Working in a manufacturing, it's not. That's not good enough,
Mm.
and I'm just reminded of all these teachings that I've heard, and I struggle to keep applying that. If you had everybody from the marketplace come work at the church,
Hmm.
resources and things would break down, but you'd also
Yeah.
you'd also lose all of the influence and impact in the marketplace.
I mean, yeah, and to put a real practical number on that, the average person attends church one time a month,
Yeah,
right? But they spend 94 times that amount of time in their workplace,
yeah,
right? And so I get the chance to sit with business owners. I go, look, I- if I'm preaching at their church, I get to see them for 2 hours, maybe,
hmm
but you get them for 40 hours every week, man.
oh
Like,
yeah,
so I think you're right on the nose there but it is so hard though, isn't it? It's hard to like constantly remind myself of those realities.
it is. It is.
Um,
I
yeah.
really want to come back to something you and I talked about a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, I shared with you that, hey, I bounce back and forth. Am I having the impact that I'm supposed to have for God? And you were like, what would it look like to revolutionize your industry,
Mhm.
or to bring revival to your industry for Christ? Like, what would that look like? What shape would that take? What role would you play in it? And I got to ask some industry partners, recent industry event, sitting there over dinner. They had previously shared that they were believers and they're in my industry. And I said, guys, what would it look like for
Yeah,
us?
buddy.
What if it started with us? There's 4 of us at this table.
That's right.
What would that look like? And I shared our story in our breakfast that day. And that really got some great conversation going. They're actually from San Antonio,
No
weirdly enough.
kidding.
Absolutely.
Man.
We'll have to share some notes on that
Yeah, for
afterward.
sure.
So it's possible, and that should be the heart, and that's where I should be going to work every day and asking that question and trying to answer that.
Well, and that's where I hope every Christian leader, if you're listening to this, it's asking that question. God, you have sent me as a missionary to the place that I'm in right now today,
Mhm.
right? So God, what is it that you're calling me to be about, right? We pray your kingdom come, your will be done. God, you have called us to be a part of that kingdom coming movement, right? It's the already and the not yet of the kingdom. And, obviously the church plays a role in that. And when I say church, I mean the body of Christ, not just the building that we happen to gather in. And so it is. I think it's those kinds of strategic conversations across the table at a market event where it's like, hey guys, we're all in the dental supply and bring transformation through this, because I speak to a lot of pastors. You want to know the real sad truth? They don't always get to know many unbelievers.
Yeah.
They spend the vast majority of their time with the flock. Now, I'm not even saying that that's a bad thing. I'm not trying to bash on our pastors out there. Lord knows they've got just as much expectation on them as anybody. But to see this transformation and shift, and I think sometimes in the church we can become overly rote
Mhm.
in how we do evangelism, or overly like systematized or processed, so that I would present the gospel to this coffee cup the same way I would a person.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the heart of Christ. I know some of your professional background and experience is kind of in communicating and in helping people to see and understand. What are some ways that you have seen? What are some of the lessons maybe from that aspect of your life that you could apply or would apply to celebrating, sharing, telling the story of who Jesus is?
Yeah, for sure. And you're right. I do have a sales and business development role, and for all the hits that's taken over the years, I mean, it's a critical role in any business.
No
You got to
question, man.
grow. You got to sell your product. And so we have a lot of tactics. There's a science behind selling. There's a science behind it. I mean, and evangelism can take on that sort of shape of selling. And one of the things that we like to do is we'll take customers who are totally bought in,
Mhm.
and we'll place them in a setting with a customer who's not at all bought in, right?
Mhm.
And let them have this sort of cross-pollinating testimonial. We
Yeah.
look at the word testimony has been in the church, since the beginning, and now it's in everyday secular life as you give ratings to products and you give ratings to companies and your customer experience. We try to capitalize on the testimony of a satisfied customer
That's right.
when it comes to a customer that we don't have yet.
Mm.
And so certainly, it's like a little life group that you're having there. You've
Yeah.
invited someone in, and they don't know where they are with Jesus, but you've surrounded them with believers, and you've allowed that story from that believer to impact them more than your explanation of the facts, right, or of the
Yeah.
history. So it's really a crossover in that respect.
Well, and I love that because immediately my mind went to I'm a big believer in that God has gifted His people with hospitality, and a lot of times we don't have the opportunity to practice that as often,
Yeah.
and the ability to say, no, hey, we're going to have a little gathering at our house.
Yeah.
Call it a party, call it a gathering, call it whatever you want. But hey, if I have relationships that I know are with unbelievers, I want to invite them into that. I want them to come and be a part. But I'm going to invite some of my believer friends too, and just kind of have we're getting
Yeah.
to know each other,
That's
right?
right.
I'm thinking, gosh, just how many little friendsgivings have I had where I missed the opportunity to invite a
Yeah.
bunch of unbelievers into the room, to say, no, we're gonna do this cultural practice that we have at Thanksgiving, right? A holiday in the U.S. really designed around gratitude,
Mhm.
but because we live in a culture that has lost its Christ centeredness, the gratitude is just kind of to the abyss. Like,
Right.
who are we even grateful to if we don't have a divine, creator God who sent His Son? And so, but being intentional with leveraging some of those moments, I think that's a great reminder. Um, to hey, let me kind of mix those audiences more than maybe
Sure.
I do regularly. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Well, any other things you kind of want to, from that aspect or element of your life that you'd want to just share with a believer that's sitting and listening, and maybe they got a little bodega somewhere
Yeah.
where they've got 2 or 3 employees, or maybe they've got they're looking at themselves on their drive to work one day, and they're going, okay, God, I want to go in with a different attitude today, that sees you differently. Any final kind of parting message for them?
Yeah, no, I think we've got to be, as much as I talked about how my character stands out, and someone might take note of that. I don't think we're gonna smile anybody into heaven,
Mm,
into faith, right? So
amen. Yeah.
I can be a really nice person at work. I've got to be more intentional about the why, about the gospel, about sharing Jesus. And I was challenged this week, as a matter of fact, by my 15-year-old who has become uh, our local high school's like de facto preacher, right?
There you
He's
go.
He's going in, he's sharing the word.
Wow.
One of his teachers took a little video of him preaching to some of his classmates during free time.
Wow.
And then he sent me a screenshot of a text of one of his buddies that said, "Hey man, this is real stuff. I know not everybody appreciates you preaching, but I'm gonna let you know it impacted me today." And he was
Wow.
like, keep doing what you're doing. And he comes home and shares
Dude,
that with me. And I'm like, I could be doing more. I could be doing
man.
more in
Yeah.
my role. If he at 15 can go into a high school with all the pressures that they have and
Mm.
share the good news, then I can be doing more.
Man, I love that. It makes me think of Timothy, right? Let no one look down on you for your youth, but set an example in
Yeah.
all things. And man, what a beautiful testimony. Well, thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. Listen, if you're a leader out there in the world, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thanks for taking a listen to be a part of the conversation. I hope this serves you well as you seek to honor Christ in your leadership and mobilize and equip the people around you to experience Christ and to make Him known among the nations. If it helps you well, man, leave us a like, a subscribe, something like that. You can find other resources at iliteam.org. Thanks for listening.